Hey, what's up, fight fans? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction. We're going to be breaking down Bellator 216 from Connecticut, I believe it is, which is it's ridiculous that they've had this fight. This has been a fight they've talked about for a couple of years, and they're having it in America over the UK, considering Bellator were in Europe last week. It's a ridiculous kind of situation that they're fighting over there in America when it would easily sell out 25,000 at the O2 Arena in London. But hey, I just watch the fights. They put the fights where they want to put them. So this is new to me. I've never did Bellator before. I've watched as a fan for a few years. It's been really hard over here in the UK to watch fights for Bellator because they've never had it in TV at all. So you had to go and find the dodgy streams online, and that was rough. Really bad streams, lagging behind. You knew the results before the fight had even finished. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, but now they've got a TV deal sorted out. I'm going to do more predictions for it because I want to do. I think it's only right that I try and do some Bellator predictions as well. So yeah, I'm only going to do the main card. You don't really want to dip into all the prelims because there's a lot of 0-0 fighters and so on. But if I have to add a couple more in, then I will. I was going to try and I thought about trying to start with Bellator 215, Karatonov against Mitrione, but I thought no, I'll leave it to. I'll leave that one out and I'll start with 216 with MVP and Daley. So I will talk you through the main card, who I'm picking, and who I think wins. And looks like it's going to be a regular occurrence, but it'll not be as in-depth as my UFC ones. I'm not as long, definitely not as long, because I do ramble on with them. I might ramble on a little bit, but 10-15 minutes should kind of be the limit for that. So I think it's a 4-fight main card we've got for this here. Valerie Loreda is making a debut. Someone you should probably keep an eye on. I think Bellator will push her quite handily. And I think she's a Taekwondo world champion, so she looks very, very good from what I've seen of some of her fights. But that's a night to keep an eye on. That's a fighter to keep an eye on. Starting off the main card, we have a former UFC vet in Erick Silva facing off against Yaroslav Amosov, who is undefeated. Erick Silva, we all know he came into the UFC kind of all guns blazing, looked great, had a great fight with Matt Brown, which I think that was on my birthday, and I always remember that fight just being blood and guts, back and forward, and a lot of fun. He had a lot of fun fights in the UFC, a lot of good finishes. There was always talk of him being on the juice, to say the least. But I mean, he never really had anything huge in the UFC. I mean, his wins were like Luis Ramos, Charlie Brenneman, Jason High, Takanori Soto, Cheick, Biggie Rhodes, Luan Chagas. I think it's a good win. He kind of come through some adversity, get third round, and his losses aren't all bad. I mean, Neil Magny, Matt Brown, Nordin Taleb, Beyonce, Jordan Mean, not the worst loss in the world, but you could definitely see regression with him. And I don't even think he looked that great against Nick Barnes in his LFA debut last time out. I know he got the arm bar in the first, but I didn't really think he looked all that great. He looks slow. He looks kind of labouring a little bit. And he's against the guy here in Yaroslav Amosov, who undefeated, got some really good wins in his record. They're mixed in with some good wins. So like he's got a win over Jared Harris. I think he can bet a retirement for that. So that's a name that you know. He's also got a win over Roberto Soldic, who is a really solid welterweight from over here out of Croatia. Former, I think he's the KSW champion. A guy I've actually bet on a few times and came through. Very dangerous guy. But this guy looks really, really good. We've seen him in that Bellator 202 fight against Jared Harris. I think comes from the Sambo kind of background, and he's just really effective on the ground, always looking for chokes, very dangerous. A couple of fights that I watched him, there was an Anaconda choke, there was a North-South choke, and both in the first round. So you know what this guy's main artillery is going to be, and it's take the fight to the ground. I think eventually he's going to find a way to get this fight to the ground, and he's going to sub Erick Silva. So on the feet is maybe where Erick's going to have his advantage. I don't see it staying there for that long. I think Amosov's going to come in there and take him down and submit him. So I'm going to go Amosov a submission at some point, maybe round number 2, maybe even round number 1. Rematch time. Roy Nelson faces off against this kind of surgeon Mirko Cro Cop. I've always been not a huge fan of Mirko Cro Cop, but yeah, I just I don't know. I'm fascinated with the guy. I came up. You watch him through the era of Pride, and the guy was an absolute killer in Pride, and then he came to the UFC, and you really did kind of see a watered down version of Cro Cop. But we all know that he's an extremely, extremely dangerous guy with a lot of tools, striking wise in there. And when you watch the rematch, when you watch the first fight, with Roy Nelson, it wasn't all in all a great fight. Wasn't much in it, and then Roy Nelson got the TKO. Since he got left the UFC, that was his last loss in the UFC. That's crazy to think. 2011, wow, long time ago. Went into retirement a couple of times he's said since then, but he's on, I think it's a 7 or 8 fight win streak. A couple of wins over Satoshi Ishii, Gabriel Gonzaga. In fact, he came back to the UFC for the Gabriel Gonzaga fight. Yeah, I forgot about that. King Mo, Amir Alec Barry, then Rocky Martinez was his last win in Risen over there, stoppage in the first round, and he kind of looks back to his best. And I thought, is he back on the juice? But they've did drug tests this week and everything's fine. Roy Nelson's a guy I think that's really kind of deteriorated, and you can see his chin is starting to take more shots. He's very slow. He's not as strong as he once was. His pressure's kind of easing off. So yeah, a couple of losses. Knockout loss to Karatonov in the first round. Lost to Mametrione. Volkov beat him in his last UFC win. And he's just he's nowhere near the fighter he once was. Back in his pomp when he was knocking out Nog, and he was knocking out Cheick, Kongo, and so on. I like Cro Cop in this one. I actually think Cro Cop will knock him out. So I'm going to go Mirko Cro Cop via knockout in the. I'm going to go out in the first round and say he wins this fight. Staying in the heavyweight division, Cheick Kongo, who I just mentioned, is against the former Bellator heavyweight champion in Vitaly Minakov, undefeated fighter coming out of Russia. Very dangerous guy. I thought this guy might have ended up going to the UFC, re-signed after I think it was a 4, maybe even close to a 5-year layoff from Bellator. Numerous Sambo world champion, and I think he's a black belt in judo as well. So the guy is really, I think he competed in the Olympics, or he was considering it, if I remember right. No, he never. He was. I remember reading about that. He was considering joining the Olympics and then thought against it. I say came into Bellator, won a couple of fights. Volkov being one of them. So that's a great win. Knocked him out in the first. Cheick Kongo, what he showed in that fight is he's very good at range. Dictates where the fight is with his range. When he was up against the fence, he's got beautiful trips up against the fence, and just really he dominated where that fight was going to go. The whole entire fight, Kongo looked out of range. He looked out of ideas coming from the get-go, and he really dominated Cheick Kongo across the 25 minutes there. Then he obviously left. His deal was done. Went back over to EFN and the Fight Night series as well. Beat Josh Copeland, who's an ex-UFC vet. Peter Graham and DJ Lindemann, who are like kind of local. Tony Johnson's another one of those guys, kind of local heavyweight journeyman. Big Nog was another one. And then he's back here against Cheick Kongo. To be fair to Kongo, his last kind of couple of fights, he's looked a little bit better. If you look at his wins over Ollie Thompson and Tony Johnson and Augusto Sakai, they were horrible fights, not good fights at all. I struggle to see. Like, he's coming off 2 knockout wins, I should say. A beautiful big right hand against Javier Ayala, and then beat Timothy Johnson, an ex-UFC guy as well. I don't think much is going to change from the first fight. I think Minakov's just going to beat him up for the majority of this fight. And I think he probably wins a decision. So I'm going to go Vitaly Minakov via decision. And the main event of the night, we have Michael Venom Page against Paul Daley. Whew, you know what? I've been really looking forward to this fight for a long time. Two very different styles. I actually didn't think this fight was ever going to get put together. I just did not think that they were going to make this match. They made it. It's Friday. I think they've weighed in. So, yeah, it's a good to go on Saturday night by all accounts. So when you look at Paul Daley, I'm a fan. I've always been a fan of Paul Daley. I think that he's got some huge power. I think the one thing that I've never really liked is just his over-aggressiveness, and it can get him into trouble. And it could be one of the things that gets him into trouble here, but also his power could be the big defining factor in him winning this fight here. MVP, I met MVP a long time ago before he was even in, I think it was, what was it, the Manama versus Gustafsson fight, I want to say. It might have been around about the time when he signed with Bellator. And obviously, coming up through the UK scene, the guy had a lot of hype with the way that he fights. His movement is exemplary, really good movement. But I've never really been a huge... I just think he's been fed... I don't want to say cans, but he's been fed a lot of fighters that were very kind of easy fights for him. The Rudy Bears, Ricky Rainey, Jeremy Holloway, Evangelista Santos I think was a step up at that time, a big step up, but he was a slow guy who could take a shot, but he finished out with a brutal knee to the forehead that absolutely crumpled the guy. I don't think we've seen him back again since. I thought the Gonzalez fight was close. I actually thought he was lucky to kind of come out with that with the dubs there. So, and then he beat David Rickles. David Rickles was too slow, didn't have a clue really what to do with the kind of the movement and the precision of MVP. The thing that worries me here is that Paul Daley's going to rush in. I think he's going to be maybe too emotionally invested that he's going to catch a shot, because you know what MVP is going to do? He's going to use that funky movement, and if he frustrates Paul Daley, Paul Daley's been frustrated in the past where he's got over aggressive. You can see it in his fights. He gets so super aggressive. He wants to make a fight of it that he is open. He's open for shots, but he's willing to give one. He's willing to take one to give one because his power is humongous. And if he catches you with shots, you're in a lot of trouble. And he's only really losing to the best guys. I mean, John Fitch just kind of rode him out. Rory McDonald was just too good. Douglas Lima was too good. But he's a fun fighter. You always should be tuning in to watch a Paul Daley fight, because you know that you could be getting something spectacular like the Brennan Ward flying knee knockout. So yeah, or the Dennis Olsen or the Andrew Ulrich like knockouts. The guy's got some big power. And I'm interested to see how this matchup is, because he's going to engage where I don't think MVP is. I think he's going to want to try and frustrate Paul Daley. And then eventually, once Paul gets too aggressive, he might start to catch him with shots. I really want Paul Daley to win this fight. And it's just, I love kind of fights like these, different styles, the bad blood between the two. There's been things said, former friends, I believe, and then it's kind of south with that. But I'm kind of struggling with this. Like I said, I want Paul Semtex Daley to win, but I just think that MVP's got that style that's going to really frustrate him, and then eventually he's going to win on the judge's decision. So hurts me to say, I'm going to go Michael Venom Page via decision. I really hope that Paul Daley comes out here and lands a bomb and puts him out and just kind of shatters the illusion of MVP, because I don't think he's a great fighter. I think he's got a lot of good techniques in there somewhere when he decides to kind of use them, but we don't really see anything. He's the ultimate kind of showman, and he could either make this fight look really simple and completely outclass with the technique that he has, or Paul Daley's going to come in there and bum rush, and I think, and hit him with some shots and knock him out. So hoping Paul wins. I'm going to pick MVP via decision. So that's my quick picks for Bellator 216. I don't know when the next Bellator card is. I think they've got one coming fairly soon where Dublin, which is actually next week. So I'll have the main event, the main card picks there. There's a lot of fights on there, but James Gallagher is the main event against Stephen Graham. Peter Queeley's on there. Richie Small, the former UFC guy, so that'll be a quick one. But I'll get that out, and then that's us till the end of March until Emmanuel Sanchez and Ashley Grimshaw. So that's my picks for Bellator 216. I want to say UFC there. I'm not so used to saying that. My UFC picks for Kane and Ngannou are up. So yeah, a new thing here, guys. Hope you like it. Let me know your picks. If you're going to be betting anybody in this card, let me know. And I will see you all for Prague next week. All the best.